Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom is surprising us this month with a fun mini house release. Here's a quick look at all the items in the mini house release. Dies, stamps, and a stencil set. I'll start with the stencil set. This is mini brick stencil. This is currently not available for purchase individually, but it is free if you purchase the release bundle. I really like the sort of grungy look of this design. Next up, we have a new Gnome add-on set. This one's called House. This is a theme Jaded Blossom has received a ton of requests for, so now it's finally available. It includes the sign to put in front of the house with either for sale or sold. There are two different key designs, a house sign. There's a packing box and this cute little house where you can add a heart on the top. Next up is a new sentiment stamp set called New Home, and there are also coordinating outline dies. Lots of great sentiments. Congratulations on your new home. You hold the key to a beautiful life, unlocking a lifetime of new memories. My favorite one. Fingers crossed you have normal neighbors. There's also two sentiments with for sale and a sold. So if you don't want to use the for sale and sold dies, you have the option of the stamp sentiment. The last die set is called House Slider Die, and this is a large die set. With the large solid die, it has the two tabs. If you cut out two of them, you can hook them together to create a pocket. Then you could add the smaller house inside the pocket, attach a card or maybe a gift card. Then you would decorate the outside of the pocket, or you can just use the smaller house die, which is actually very large. It does fit on an A2 size card though. I'm showing you here with an A2 size card base. This set includes a variety of different window and door styles. There are window sills, bushes, small trees, flowers, lots of different pieces to decorate your house. Jaded Blossom also released their House MDF piece. It's only available with the stand since it's a very large piece. And it also has two stand pieces since it's so large. I do have a few cards to share using the new release. For card design number 1, I decided to pull out an older die from Jaded Blossom. This is their card layer die number 2. It was out of stock for a while, but it was recently restocked. It's a great die if you don't want any pattern paper scraps. It's designed to use with a sheet of 6x6 pattern paper or cardstock. You run it through your die machine once and it'll cut out all 6 of these pieces. So basically nothing left over. I used the die on 2 sheets of paper from an older collection by Doodlebug Design called Hello. It's from 2018, so it's no longer available. I still have a little bit left over, so I really need to work on finishing it off. For card design number 1, I selected the tone-on-tone for the 2 larger pieces, and then that diagonal strip has birds sitting on a wire with little hearts. I'll layer all 3 pieces on some dark teal cardstock, and that cardstock piece is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. I'll start by adding the larger tone-on-tone pieces down. I'm using both ATG and glue since they have that faux stitched edge detail. It helps to have both adhesives to make sure everything lays nice and flat. So now I'll add that second large tone-on-tone piece, and it leaves a gap in the center. The diagonal bird piece will go on top, But before adhering that down, I want to fill in that gap area with some scrap cardstock. And I do need to trim the ends since I don't want it peeking out the side. Now I'll put adhesive on the back of that diagonal bird piece and adhere it in place. And the right and left side should line up perfectly with the side of the tone-on-tone papers. So there's the main background. Now I'll put adhesive on the back, add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For an image panel, I'm using oval die cuts. These are both from Jaded Blossom. I use some white shimmer cardstock for the solid oval and the same dark teal for the scallop oval. I'll glue the two together, then put glue on the back and add the oval on the card. And I know it does cover up quite a bit of that bird strip, but you can still see the cute little birds on the right and left side. This card will feature a girl gnome holding one of the keys, and I cut the key out of some silver holographic paper so it's super shiny. I've already assembled most of the girl gnome. The pattern paper I use for her hat and dress are from the same Hello collection by Doodlebug Design. I still need to attach her hands. I'll put one on the top, one underneath, and I'm only attaching the little fingertip area on the key. Now I'll flip it over, pop it up using some foam dimension. I have the small foam squares from scrapbook.com in the 1mm thickness. And I will need to cut some of those squares in half to fit behind the narrow areas of the key. Now I'll remove the release paper and add the key in front of the gnome. Of the two different key designs included on this set, this one is my favorite. I've already stamped and cut out the sentiment, unlocking a lifetime of new memories. Using Jaded Blossom's Whimsical Banner die set, I cut out one of the smaller banners from pink cardstock. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. Before adding the gnome, I'll put the sentiment at the bottom of the oval, and I did put foam dimension on the back of the sentiment. And I am using a variety of different foam. I'm trying to use up some of the older foam I've had in my stash. I also have foam behind the gnome. I'll remove the release paper and add her right above the sentiment in the center of the oval. For a little extra detail on the gnome, I'm using a white gel pen, adding highlights on her hat, her nose, and her feet. If I had used regular cardstock for the key instead of the specialty cardstock, I'd probably add a few of the white pen highlights on it as well. And for embellishments, I pulled out some older shape sprinkles from Doodlebug Design. I'll put 3 hearts around the gnome, 2 in green and 1 in pink. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card features the same pattern paper, just in reverse. I like how different the cards look, even though I use the same pattern paper for the background. Now moving on to card design number 2, and I'll be doing some stenciling. So I pulled out a magnetic glass mat from GLASSBOARD Studio. This is their July limited edition mat. After July, it won't be available any longer. It's called Star Spangled Spectacular. I love patriotic colors, so I couldn't resist purchasing this mat. I also purchased the limited edition magnet set. If you're interested in shopping at GLASSBOARD Studio, you can always save 15% with my code Kristie. For card design number 2, I'm using the mini brick stencil set on some light tan, sort of peach colored cardstock. The ink color I'm using is Distress Oxide Rusty Hinge. I'm adding more ink in the center and gradually getting lighter on the outside edges. I used a little bit of mint tape to hold the piece of cardstock, and then I'm using these super strong magnets to hold the stencil in place. Before removing the stencil completely, I'll lift up one end, take a peek, and see if I'm happy with how it looks. And I felt like I needed a little more ink on the right side. So once I'm happy with the background, I need to clean up the mat. I'll simply spray it with water and wipe it clean and dry with one of Scrapbook.com's Crafty cleanup cloths. At the bottom of the card, I'm adding a 1-inch strip of pattern paper. This is from Studio Light. It's their Shabby Wood collection. I love using wood grain pattern paper, so whenever I see a new paper pad featuring a bunch of it, I have to buy it. For a little bit of separation between the wood grain and the stenciled background, I'm adding a Love from Lizzie peel off. Now you'll only see a tiny bit on the right and left side, so I am using some of the scrap pieces. This is the pinstripe style in white, and I use the medium width. I'll wrap the ends around the back, put adhesive on the back of this panel, and add it on my card base. So there's the background of my card, and I think this could be an indoor look since you can have brick on the inside and then that wood grain at the bottom creates a fun floor. Next, I'll assemble one of the packing boxes. The very background piece will be covered up completely, but I decided to still cut it out of the same craft colored cardstock. And then there are the 3 individual pieces for the box. I'll glue each of those down, starting with the one on the left, then the one on the right, and then finally the top of the box. There's also a piece for the tape that you'll put on the top. But before attaching the tape piece, I'll ink the edges of the box. I'm using Distress Oxide Vintage Photo ink. Once I'm done inking the box, I need to clean up my mat. And now I'll put glue on the back of this tape piece and attach it on the top. And for the tape, I use some light blue pearlescent cardstock from my stash. So there's the cute packing box all assembled, super easy. Now I'll grab my card, and I've already assembled 4 other boxes. I'll be adding the pile of boxes on the left side of the card. I'll attach the first box down with glue, so it'll be the back box in the center. Then I'll add a box on the right side, and the areas where it goes off of that first box, I will pop up using foam. And I'll continue to do that, adding all 5 boxes on the card. And to figure out where I need to add those foam pieces, I'll first place one of the boxes down, sort of feel around, and then the areas where it goes off of the other boxes, I'll add foam in that area. So I've attached the bottom row of boxes, and I have 2 more that I'll stack on top. I'll remove the release paper, put glue behind the rest of the box die cut area, and adhere it down. This upper box on the left, I did need to trim off a little bit of the foam I put on the back. And now I'm onto the final box, and I'll adhere it on the top right side. So there's this stack of 5 boxes, and I think it would be a fun detail to write on the side or front of the box: living room, bedroom, kitchen. Make it really look like a moving box. I'll be adding one of the boy gnomes, and he'll be holding a sold sign. I wanted to show how you can keep the letters all together so they line up perfectly as positioned on the die. I'll be cutting out the letters from red cardstock, and I'm holding them in place with some mint tape. I'll run it through my Platinum Scout machine. The mint tape I'm using is from Scrapbook.com. It's low tack, so it holds things in place, but it doesn't really stick to the paper permanently. I have the piece of paper upside down, and the S did pop out, so I will put it back. Then I'll put a piece of mint tape on the back side. Then I'll remove the die, making sure all the letters stay down. I'll put another piece of mint tape, this time on the front of the letters. Flip over this piece, remove the mint tape from the back, and then carefully remove the mint tape with the letters off of that negative cardstock piece. So now the letters are still all together and perfectly spaced, just like they are on the die. I'll put glue on the back of just the letters and attach them on the white sign. I'll press down firmly and then very carefully peel off the mint tape. And now I have the word sold perfectly spaced on the white sign. I'll have the gnome hold the sign. So I'll attach one hand on the right side and the other on the left side. This set does have a die that includes the little hand hold positions. So if you're not sure where to put the hands, you can always use that one. I generally skip that piece and just use the individual image and then add the hands where I want to. Although I think I did place the hands in the same position as that hand hold die. On the back of the sign and his hands, I did pop it up with foam dimension. I'm adding the gnome on the right side of the boxes. The left side of the gnome will sit in front of the boxes. And since the boxes are already popped up with foam dimension, I used a 1mm foam behind the boxes. I need to pop up the right side of the gnome with some thicker foam dimension. This is a 2mm foam. The foot on the left will be in front of the boxes, so in that area I'm adding more of the 1mm foam. Once I have good coverage, I'll remove the release paper, then add the gnome on the right side of the card. I'm making sure his foot isn't hanging off the edge of the card. For a sentiment, I'm adding my favorite one from the set, fingers crossed you have normal neighbors. I use black ink stamped on white cardstock, and I'll adhere this sentiment in the upper left-hand corner. And I decided not to pop it up, instead I'll just glue it down. For a final finishing touch, using the white gel pen, adding highlights on the boxes, the gnome's hat, and his nose. So there is my finished card. I really like how this one turned out. Perfect to send to someone who just moved. I really like the design of the new mini brick stencil, and remember, you can only get it if you purchase the full release package. Now moving on to card design number 3, and this is my final card design. I did a bunch of die cutting for this card, and I think it turned out so fun. For the background of my card, I have light blue cardstock. I'm adding a grass piece at the bottom, and that grass border is from Jaded Blossom's Spring Scenic die set. So there's the background of my card, this fun scene, and I'll be adding the house image. So this is from the house slider die set. It's the smaller size, just the house. Now, since the house is very large, I'll be offsetting it on the card so you won't see the whole thing. I'm adding a yellow house, and using the same size house die, I cut out another piece from some scrap cardstock, and I'm cutting it down to only be behind the house above the grass area. That way it stays at the same level. I'll put adhesive on the back, add the house on the right side, and even the very top of the roof will be cut off. So once I've adhered the house down, I'll flip over the card and with a pair of scissors, trim off the overhang. Next, I'll add the roof area, and I use dark brown cardstock. I'll put glue on the back, adhere it in place, and I'll let that sit for a moment before I trim off the overhang. On the left side, where you see some of the sky, I'm adding 2 small clouds. And the clouds are also included in the Spring Scenic die set. Jaded Blossom now has 3 different Scenic die sets, and they are my go-to when I want to create a fun Scenic card. So now I'll flip over the card, trim off the extra area of the roof. There are several different window options. I really like this large half circle, and I'm putting that at the top. I use light blue cardstock for the background piece, although once I finish the card, I'm kind of regretting using that color since it's basically the same color as the sky. But that's okay, it still works. For the window pane, the trim area, I use a lighter brown cardstock. Now I'm not attaching that down yet. First, I'll adhere the door. I use some dark teal cardstock for the door and the same lighter blue for the 3 small windows. And I inlaid those small windows. I put a piece of clear double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the door and then added those 3 windows. The doorknob, I used some dark gray pearlescent cardstock. Next, I'll add the green bushes in front of the house. The one on the right, you'll only see a tiny bit of it, so I'm only adding glue on the left area of it. Then I'll add that full bush on the left side. Flip over the card, trim off the overhang of the one bush. I will be adding 3 teeny tiny ghosts, and I know that probably doesn't make sense, but they work perfectly with one of the new sentiments on the New Home stamp set, and you'll see that here in a moment. The mini ghosts are from Jaded Blossom's Halloween Embellishment Cluster die set. I used some white shimmer cardstock for the ghosts, and I wanted their eyes to really stand out, so I'm putting a piece of black cardstock on the back side of them. And I don't want any of that black cardstock peeking out from around the ghost, so I am trimming off the corners of this small scrap piece. Now I'll grab the half circle window, attach the frame. I'm not pressing down in the very center since I'll be tucking the bottom edge of the ghost behind that little frame area, so it looks like they're inside the house. I'm adding 2 different sizes of ghosts and they're facing different directions. The largest one will go in that top window on the right, and then the 2 medium size, one will go on the right and the other in the bottom left. So now I'll press down firmly on the rest of the frame, put glue on the back of the window and adhere it at the top of the house. And the very right side will go off the edge of the card. So once again, I'll flip over the card and trim off the overhang with a pair of scissors. So there's the main scene with the house, a few little ghosts peeking out of windows. Next, I'll assemble the sign that goes in front of the house. For the very background piece, I used white cardstock. This will all be covered up. And then there's another die piece that has the wood portion and the grass. I cut this out of craft cardstock, but again, this one will also be covered up completely. So now I'm down to the individual pieces. I use the same craft color for the posts, the wood pieces, and then green cardstock for the grass. For the sign, there are 2 different pieces. They almost look the same, but one is a little bit smaller. The larger one will basically create a frame. I used some dark gray cardstock, and then for the sign, I used white cardstock. On the frame, it has all the etched areas, so you know where to add the images. The little strip at the bottom, I think this is supposed to be maybe the price or talking about the house. Maybe it's the realtor's name. I used a light gray cardstock. And then that small house image, I decided to match with the house on the card. So yellow for the house part and dark brown for the roof. For the 2 small pieces that hold the sign, I used some silver satin mirror cardstock. There are 2 options for words that you could add on the sign: for sale or sold. I decided to go with sold again And this is a little bit smaller than the sold I used on the earlier card. I cut it out the same way, so I have it ready to go on mint tape. I'll put glue on the back of the letters and attach it diagonal on the sign. For a sentiment, I'm adding congratulations on your new home, and I will pop it up using foam dimension. I'll add this sentiment at the bottom of the card. Part of it will sit on top of the house. When adding the foam, I was thinking the sentiment was the other direction, so I was leaving that little bit of gap behind what I thought was the top of the sentiment, but I was wrong. It was actually the bottom. So once attaching it, I realized I need a little bit of foam behind the word your. So I'll cut a small piece and just tuck it in underneath. I'll also pop up the sign using more foam dimension. Make sure to get good coverage on the back. I'll remove the release paper and add the sign on the left side, and just a tiny bit of the grass will go off the edge of the card. But I don't think it's enough that I need to trim it off. It should still fit in an A2 size card. So there is my finished card. I did end up making two. And as I mentioned earlier, the sentiment that goes perfectly with those little ghosts on the outside, I stamped, "I hope it isn't haunted" on the inside, and also added another small ghost image. I love how this card turned out. I think the little ghosts in the window are super cute. Now here's another look at the 6 cards I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new mini house release. This is a fun new release, perfect to send to someone who has moved or is selling a house. The new home stamp set even includes a sentiment, "Thank you for house sitting," so you could make this for someone who's watching your house while you're away. With the new MDF house, I couldn't resist making a pink house. For the little stands, I decorated them with green cardstock. Jaded Blossom has an MDF Standing Base die set that fits perfectly on top of the stands. I used some pattern paper from Doodlebug Designs Petite prints for the house and also the pink windowsills. I had so much fun making all the different cards and assembling the MDF piece with a pink house. If you are interested in the release or any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.